A senior lecturer at the Department of Political Science, University of Lagos, the orders are not new, but the implementation of the executive orders will be a big challenge, especially with the massive corruption in the civil service.
The kind of thing that will sustain whichever executive order you are given, because we have a very weak institution. And some of us have argued that the best way to solve corruption in Nigeria is to build strong institutions, and that will require entire restructuring of the federal system, because we are operating a unitary system in a federal structure, which is not sustainable.
Mr. Okeke wonders how the civil servants can really carry out these orders because the right institutions are not in place.
With what can that executive order be implemented? These things are not just there. And nobody is just listening. You can just issue an executive order and, oh well, it's there on paper. For those who are instructed to carry out such orders, they will feel free, okay, maybe make one or two people scapegoat to pretend that they are solving the problem. But that does not solve the problem at all. So it's just like scratching on the surface. We have not really touched at the main issue.
The president of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, Mr. Ismaila Zakari, insists that the new executive orders, if carried out, will move the country's economy to the next level.
Ensuring that the order is implemented is another thing. The vice president or the acting president really has done something that is good, that is excellent according to me. And I'm sure many members of my institute, when I saw those orders the day after they were released, I was the happiest man in Nigeria.
Indeed, ICANN president supports the new policies.
Essentially, if you want to avoid fraud in the system, you have to really look at controls, put internal controls in place, and there are various, types of internal controls that have to be put for various types of gaps and processes. Secondly, you just can't put control in place and leave it and say, oh, we have put controls. They have to be monitored and checked and evaluated. And that is also the work of accountants. So if you want to, they say prevention is better than cure. You don't wait until people are perpetrated fraud, then you go and try to catch them and say EFCC should go and lock them up. No. You want to, as much as possible, put some checks in place so that you will make it it's like a detriment for anybody who is thinking of finding loopholes where he can take advantage.
The operation has to be streamlined in such.
The Director General, Nigerian Association of Chambers of Commerce, Industry, Mines and Agriculture, NASIMA, Barrister Emmanuel Kobam, says the new initiative of the Buhari's administration will be successful and move the local industries forward, and it will also help in meeting up with international specifications.
The manufacturers in Nigeria, they have to understand one thing. They have to understand that in terms of standards, whatever they produce have to meet international standards. The federal government has been touting this and saying this severally, that we want to export. Let us be an export country, not just an import-dependent nation. For us to successfully export, we have to ensure that the standards of our products and goods and services are optimal. And that is why you have standards organization and other places. NASIMA is becoming a certification center very soon under UNIDO. And NASIMA itself, we issue certificate of origin to non-oil exports from Nigeria. And so Nigeria can contribute to this. But first, the people who are in the scene, who are sitting down there, who are interested in exporting, must understand that they cannot just export anything. Otherwise, these things will come back.
On specifications for Nigerian goods and services, we spoke with a local manufacturer, Mr. George Onofowokon, the Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer, Coleman Wires and Cables.
I think what we need to actually first do, it's a good thing that the government has finally gone in the right direction of trying to ease business, both local and international. And now for international, most businesses need certification. Now, I think where we need to also improve on that is to actually get these third-party certification companies to be in Nigeria. For us, some of us that are actually here that are trying to do business internationally, locally and internationally, we find the difficulty in getting certification. you find out that most of the third-party certification companies, they are not in Nigeria. They might have offices in Nigeria, but they don't actually have certification offices in Nigeria. It's sad to say that sometimes when you either hear they're in Ghana, in Ivory Coast, or in South Africa. Now, Nigeria brings quite a bit of this business also. And I think it's fair enough for the government also to encourage that the third-party certification companies should actually be in Nigeria, and not just for us to be actually utilizing these third parties from different countries where the cost of certification becomes very high. So most of the time when you find in most exports, certification cost is quite high. That needs to be brought down. The idea that everything should now go, we should be looking inwards, local content, we should actually look inwards into the buying process, the bidding process, the application process, which is part of what this is for the ministries, and it be more transparent. Let me know what it takes for me to deal with a ministry. I think it's a very good idea. It's laudable, because for now, for most manufacturers or most products, you don't even know what it takes to actually supply any ministry, because it's only when the tenders are out that you actually have a little bit of understanding.
Local manufacturers should be encouraged, because that is the only way the nation's economy can move forward.
I think we spend too much time recognizing non-indigenous products, and it saddens us that we always associate a lower standard product with a Nigerian product. A bit that has started changing with some certain industries like cable, like cement, even simple things like flour. We've standardized a lot of things, drinks, beverages. So we have a lot of manufacturing sector that has moved up the ladder in terms of standardization. Now, what we need to do is try and move the rest of the ladder, and especially things that get involved in procurement. Now, you cannot have a country spending so much money, even on capital, and you're finding out that majority of the money you spend on your capital is on import of those items. So be it you have infrastructural deficiency, you have power deficiency, we all know that. But when I'm spending these billions of naira or trillions of naira on capital projects to improve the infrastructure, and we're spending 80% of the money importing those products, then we're defeating the purpose. We're not localizing part of what we're doing, or majority of what we're doing, to make sure that the money stays within the system. So it's like going to a bank. When you want to spend heavy with another client, they try and instill into you to allow the client to make sure he has an account with them. So the money really doesn't go out of the system.
On May the 30th, the acting president also signed 2 more orders to ease access to credit for MSMEs. The bills which have now become acts are the Secure Transactions in Movable Assets Act 2017, otherwise known as Collateral Registry Act, and the Credit Reporting Act 2017. The Collateral Registry Act ensures that micro, small and medium enterprises in Nigeria can register their movable assets such as motor vehicles, equipment and accounts receivable in the National Collateral Registry, and use the same as collateral for accessing loans. This in turn will increase their chances at accessing financing and tackle one of the major obstacles faced by MSMEs. Experts believe that the executive orders are good, but then the implementation must be properly monitored, because that is the only way all the efforts and resources put into it will not be a waste at the end of this present administration's tenure.